readers,
reviewers,
Potter,
lend us your ears. Welcome back to the Brothers Gwynne channel. Today we're going to be talking about our top 10 fantasy books of all time, and we just wanted to show Potter a bit. This is one of our dogs, Potter. He's very cheeky, but we love him. And
he has the best beard ever.
And he was nudging at the door as we started this video. So we're like, let's let him have a little look, let him have his time on the camera. But now we're going to get into talking about our top 10 fantasy books, and Potter can go free now.
I wonder what Potter's favourite would be. Watership Down. That's Gwynne.
No, we can talk about that another time.
Fox and the Hound. Is that a book? Was Fox and the Hound
I'm
a
not
book?
sure.
I'm not sure.
But let's get into our top 10, yeah?
Let's get down to business.
Now let's just get straight into it. Ed, what is your first pick for this first half of the video?
One of my favourite fantasy books is Malice by Papa Gwynne. Reasons why I love this is because of the kind of the historical feel that it has. It's similar to David Gemmell's Rigante series, which I am in the middle of and I'm loving. But I love the whole historical backdrop of the Celts versus the Romans. I love Celtic and Welsh mythology. The characters here, there are tropes here that are classic to fantasy that I hadn't really read that much of when I started reading Malice. I remember when Malice was, the very first original draft, and it holds a very special place in my heart. It's my favourite book of all time. And the character Corban was always my idol growing up. And then I realised that Corban was actually my dad, John Gwynne. So, another reason why he's my idol is that ain't mine. Come on, back off, get your own idol.
Oi.
I chose him, I knew him before you knew him.
Oh, that is unfair.
And not unfair, I know him for longer.
We will settle this in a duel soon.
I challenge you to the circle. But yeah, Malice is one of my favourite and one of the best fantasy books in my opinion.
And let's just get over all the love for Papa Gwynne straight away, shall we? Well, we'll probably return back to him, but Shadow of the Gods is going to be my first pick. This is the first of his new series, which came out this year. Completely different feel to The Faithful and the Fallen, but it keeps the characters at the heart of the story. It's quite intimate, it's inspired by Norse mythology, and it's awesome.
And it has troll testicles.
Great pitch. Yeah, but it's got someone who is one of the best characters I've ever read. We may be considered a bit biased because obviously we talk about these characters in our house every single day as if they're real, and so it does bring them to life more, but I firmly believe that if I didn't know Papa Gwynne and I read this, that this would still be up there with my favourites. So Shadow of the Gods, we gush about this a lot on the channel, and so there we go.
But they are real.
Svik is real. Svik is you, to be fair, so he is real. Yeah. But now, Ed,
I wish I just had.
What's the next one?
The next one is J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. Now, this is, must be what the father of fantasy is Tolkien.
Yes,
and The Hobbit is the eye-opener to many, many people's eyes. And seeing what fantasy can really be with the heroes, the amazing rich landscapes, the diverse races of people, and associating with each other, the amazing quests, the camaraderie, and The Hobbit has all of this rolled into one beautifully presented package. The writing, the prose is gorgeous. The characters are, really stand out in the memory, and it's hard to have when you have 13 dwarves. Tolkien makes all of them different. They all have their moment to shine, which I love. I love the influences here from Anglo-Saxon texts, which we obviously, if you've seen our chat with Philip Chase that we did not long ago about Anglo-Saxon Old English literature, then you will see some of those influences from Tolkien here. But I love The Hobbit. It was read to me as a child. Dad did all the voices. He really encapsulated all the characters. The trolls in particular is hilarious. And there's so many things here that are very, very special to me and also to many other people in the world, because The Hobbit is lots of people's first kind of experience of fantasy, and I think it's a great one to have on your best fantasy books list.
The Hobbit is just amazing. Beautiful. And the second of mine is, I also think that this is absolutely just incredible, and it is Robin Hobb's Royal Assassin, which is the second instalment in the Farseid trilogy. This series really just caught my heart I read it probably a few years ago now, 2-3 years ago, and Fitz has since then, along with Night Eyes and Shade and Ketrican and Verity, all of them have gone down to my favourite characters of all time. I love the heart to the story that Robin Hobb has. We love all characters bit at the centre of a story, and in Royal Assassin it really is. It is a beautiful, beautiful tale of heroism and tragedy, isn't it? Where Hobbit strips away much of the romanticism of life, really, exposes a lot of the trauma, tragedy that we all experience, and we are put firmly into Fitz's shoes in a way where we experience his flaws but also his virtues as well, and you come to love him. You think at times you're screaming at the page, making him do something, trying to make him take a different course of action, but you completely believe why he's doing it. It's not for plot convenience. It just feels so natural and organic, and I'm very happy that Ed has actually read the first instalment recently, and he'll be carrying on with Royal Assassin pretty
Very
soon.
I will be indeed.
So there we go. That's something that everyone needs to read.
And someone that Robin Hobb enjoys to read is Joe Abercrombie.
That's
And
nicely
Abercrombie,
done.
thank you. Cheers. Joe Abercrombie's The Last Argument of Kings is my favourite First Law, of the favourite book of the First Law trilogy. The first trilogy, obviously. Anyway, yeah, I adore The Last Argument of Kings because it wraps up and also leaves open some of those strands of plot that Joe Abercrombie masterfully weaved into play in The Blade itself and Before They're Hanged. And I love the way the symmetry of the characters here. If you want to hear us gush about Joe Abercrombie's The First Law trilogy, then check out our chat with Dylan and Charles, the excellent duo of Friends Talking Fantasy podcast. We have a video of a discussion on our channel, so go check it out. But I love this book because it's got iconic fantasy characters like Jezal and Logan and Glocta. There are characters that fly under the radar as well, like Colin West, and there's so many instances of genius here. Their set pieces are brilliant. Some of my favourite action in fantasy, in books, full stop. The character work is masterful, and the way that the characters interact with each other is very Tarantino-esque. But what I love about this is that you get into the heads of the characters, and it feels very much like the Game of Thrones world, where you can see what Tyrion is actually thinking, which is so much fun. So yeah, I love Last Argument of Kings. My favourite book of the First Law trilogy. Over to you, Will.
And I'm also going to be talking a bit about Joe Abercrombie, Lord Grimdark himself.
Gerbil Crombie.
With his debut, The Blade itself. See, a lot of people I've seen say that they think this is one of his weaker stories because it's not as plot driven and it is his debut. And
liars.
And no, they might be right in their opinion, but in mine,
I'm Anakin.
You are
liars.
And in my opinion, The Blade itself is up there with the best that he has written. I think that despite the lack of plot work, there is plot work in the background, it's just not at the forefront, is it? But I think that having the characters at the heart of the story and how amazing this entire cast is just absolutely amazing. As Ed said, there's so many characters they're becoming quite iconic, like Logan, Jezal and Glocta, but there's all the side characters as well. Dogman, West, Pharaoh, just three of the characters who I absolutely adore. They could each be the main protagonists of their own story, couldn't they? If an author wrote a book where that person was the centre of the story, I'd be like, this is awesome. But Joe Abercrombie has 6 fantastic characters as his perspectives. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone. No, but they're the 6 that I've remembered anyway, and I think that they are absolutely just fantastic across the board. And the way Joe Abercrombie writes is so engaging and interesting. You're there in the world, you're understanding what's going on around you, you understand the danger of these people's lives, what they value, what their motivations are. And even though this is grimdark, he's called Lord Grimdark on Twitter, it is so funny and humorous as well. The character interactions are just absolutely genius. But I'm going to be talking a bit more about Joe Abercrombie later on in this video, or maybe next video, where we do the second half of our favourite books. But so there we go, I won't hark on for too long, even though I think I have already. So without any further ado, and without further gilding the lily,
64 minutes later, my next pick is Traitors Blade by Sebastian de Castell. And now Sebastian's one of my favourite people, and Traitors Blade is one of my favourite fantasy books. It's book 1 of this fantastically hilarious and also really engaging a book that is full of musketeers, very that kind of action, the camaraderie that a trio can only dream of achieving, and one-liners that will make you laugh continuously throughout the book. It has some of my favourite character interactions together, and I love the way that Sebastian weaves together the plot, where there are countless surprises, countless twists that really upset our main characters. It's told from the main point of view of Falkio, and he's an excellent point of view because so he does things that, do you know what, sometimes wind me up, and I really like that about this character, that everything he does isn't the right thing. You know, he has his own reasons, and I completely sympathise with him for his reasons, but sometimes you just want to listen to Brasty, who is usually the kind of the comic relief of the book. But he has some great ideas. I love Brasty. He's one of my favourite characters. If I was going to go to the pub for a pint with anyone, it would have to be Brasty. He's so funny. And William, when you read the series, I cannot wait to talk to you about this. I know that Alan loves this book, this series as well, and he recently did a chat from Library of Alexandria. Did a chat with Sebastian de Castel himself. So yeah,
which is
definitely
awesome.
go. Yeah, it really is so much fun to see what Sebastian's thoughts on the books as well, seeing what he's working on next. But this is one of my favourite fantasy books of all time.
And the next instalment on this
Installment
list of books is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is the first of his series called The Burning. Book 2 is out, The Fires of Vengeance, and The Lord of Demons, which is an awesome name, is coming out early next year, and I really cannot wait. I loved The Fires of Vengeance so much, but I think that The Rage of Dragons surpasses it just slightly, in my opinion, which doesn't bring Fires of Vengeance down at all. I think they're both absolutely brilliant.
It's the whole Gladiator sequence.
Oh my,
just so
in The Rage of
good.
Dragons. So this is part of it, seems to be, but maybe not inspired, but it's got a Gladiator feel. They're in a ring, a group of people. It's not one-on-one, but it's a group of people working together. And the way that Evan Winter crafts that camaraderie and that team spirit whilst balancing the own motivations of our central figure, Tau. I think that is really perfect, how those motivations of winning for the team and his own pursuit for vengeance really counter each other.
Especially
and they
when
result...
he's literally too angry to
Exactly, he is too angry to die, but even though he does kind of neglect those around him and he won't let himself become close to anybody, you understand why. He's faced more than his fair share of tragedy in The Rage of Dragons. He is put through a lot of trauma, and you really understand where he's coming from. He's taken this purpose to help him carry on with his life, and it is consuming him, isn't it? It is burning his entire path towards where he is headed. And Tao, I think, is a brilliant central character, and I think that the story is really interesting as well. The social dynamics, the social constructs, and how the different levels of society really come into play, and that social conflict as well, as people who are pushed down in society are trying to rise up, but those at the top, the monarchy and the noblemen, are trying to oppress and suppress them still. And I think that The Rage of Dragons is a really interesting tale, that it gives you that interesting, engaging plot and action, but it has such a depth of character and themes to it as well. So The Rage of Dragons, another that, basically like all of these on here, I think that everyone really should read.
Absolutely will. And another one that you should read is another one of the kind of fathers of fantasy in David Gemmell. David Gemmell has such an amazing name and such a brilliant fan base, and it's for good reason, because Legend, his first book, is one of my favourites of all time. It has, again, iconic characters like Druss, the legend himself. It has amazing action. It has heroes that really are morally grey. They make these decisions that feel very human. They make mistakes. They have lots and lots of flaws, which is one reason why I absolutely adore these characters. I love how David Gemmell takes inspirations from fantasy and wears them on his sleeve, but he also adds things that are completely his own and that were unique for him at the time as well. And I can see how a lot of fantasy is influenced by David Gemmell nowadays.
Including Papa Gwynne.
Exactly, including Papa Gwynne. Stephen Arion, The Coward is a book I read recently, and I just got extreme David Gemmell vibes from that, so go check that out as well. But yeah, Legend is wonderful. It's I think it's written, was it in the 80s, the 90s?
I think
one of
90s,
those,
yeah,
anyway, before I was born. But it's one of those that you really need to go check out. It's got characters that will stay with you for a very long time.
Druss.
And absolutely, their plot is fantastic, and it is pretty hopeless at times. But it's a real grim read, but it's good fun.
It's a lot of fun, but it is moving as well. Just as the book I'm about to mention, and this is the Silmarillion, of course,
history collection
by Tolkien. The history of Middle Earth. This is basically what it is. It's his history installment. This is absolutely amazing.
Do you ever take it out of the case? Whoa. That first time ever?
No. It is can never be touched.
Do you want me to hold it for you, or
what?
do you want me to hold it?
You want to touch my book?
Well, I'm just thinking while you're talking to everyone, I could... No?
You thought wrong.
I could look through the pictures.
Very wrong.
I could open the book and show the
I
pictures
think
to everyone.
Stop now. It's safe right here. The Silmarillion is a tale that, even though I think that a lot of people may not want to dive into it because they hear that it can be quite dry.
No.
I think that
dive, they should
delve.
like the
And,
dwarves.
dwarves, very nicely
They
done.
delved too deep.
But drums in the team. But
Exactly
But
how Saruman
I
says
think
it.
that what beyond the first chapter, I think that could be a bit dry. It's a big summary of how the world is crafted. But beyond that, onward, this is a story that is as moving as I would argue any part of the Lord of the Rings. Moving, engaging, and just so fun to find out about the lore of this world. Basically, it's even more epic than Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings in epicness pales in comparison. I enjoy them both probably quite equally, but in terms of the epic scale, the Silmarillion, you can't get much higher, can you? Worlds, the parts of the continent being destroyed in natural events.
Spoiler alert.
And also there is the incoming Lord of the Rings program, Amazon program coming next year, which we're a bit wary about, which I think most of the fandom is, but it seems that they're going to be getting a few of their stories or a few of the ideas from the Silmarillion. So it will be interesting to see what they take from that, and obviously fingers crossed that they do a great job. Hopefully they will. They've got amazing source material for
Hasn't
it.
Beren
So
Luthien been
it must be.
optioned for TV? I think I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
That would be cool. That is one of the best stories. That is a story that has made us cry. I remember Papa Gwynne, we're walking in the shops and he decided to just randomly tell us the story of Beren Luthien. And so walking in these shops and we're all crying. Wow, he is an author, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
He
got
did-
good
he loves-
storytelling abilities.
He has indeed.
So he should. On to the next one. Another person who has good storytelling abilities is Nicholas Ames with Kings of the Wild. This is a fantastic book that I read this year, actually. So I'm really happy to add another, a recent read onto my best of fantasy list. Now, Kings of the Wild is everything that fantasy should be. Tropey, full of grim and dark deeds, but with a band of fantastic friends. Diverse races, lots and lots of humorous jokes and references to the outside world, as well as these amazing set pieces that have these fantastical creatures. Fantastical creatures.
That is emphasis.
Try say that after 4 beers. Not sure what that was. Oh, a note from William saying, Edward, you're the best brother in the world. Oh, brilliant.
Doesn't sound like me.
Again. But anyway, Kings of the Wild is one of my favourites because Nicholas Ames, he weaves the characters so well. It had emotional moments, it had hilarious moments, it had characters that I really resonated with and could sympathise over. It had relationships really at the core of the story, which, you know us, we love to read about these brilliant characters.
Yes, we do.
And the relationships that they have. And these characters are just, they really stick with you for a long time, absolutely. Their bond is unbreakable. And there are moments here that had me crying. So any book that makes me cry is going to be on my best of lists, unless I'm crying out of disappointment, which has never actually happened. So
That would be quite extreme, wouldn't it?
It would be pretty extreme.
It's
and
usually
I'm
just
not
a
a very
morose, melancholy
extreme
feeling, isn't
person,
it?
am I? So not at all. But anyway, well done to Nicholas Ames for a fantastic book.
And I think this is the last one of the video, isn't it? Is it?
Hey,
Yes.
you organise
Yes.
me, Will.
And it is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I love this. Is my favourite of Neil Gaiman's works, and I think it's just Mr. Croup and Mr. Vandermeer, who are, they're basically described like a fox and wolf, but they are people, but they've just got the qualities of a fox and wolf, and they're pretty strange, aren't
They
they?
have whiskers, don't
They do have quite a fine taste for pottery and art.
they? Yeah.
Well, one of them does anyway.
Like any good villain.
Like any good villain, and I love them both in this. They are so funny. I think that with characters with the comedic aspect that they have, it would be so easy to make them a bit cringy and not to laugh at them. But Neil Gaiman just strikes that perfect note that makes every single scene with them just magnetic. I'm laughing the entire time, but you're actually scared of them at the same time because they are actually quite terrifying. And there's so many fresh, unique ideas that Neil Gaiman has in this. So basically, if you don't know what Neverwhere is, it is set in London, and a bit like with Harry Potter with the magical world and the muggles don't know about it, you have London below, which is full of magical creatures and magic, and the London above does not know about them. And you can only be in one place at one time. You can't mix in them both, so you have to pick one or the other. And it is really interesting seeing someone taken from London above and taken down, and they are immersed into this world, into this conflict. They're dragged into it, even though they try to escape it. And Neil Gaiman just pushes so many fresh, incredible ideas in your face that I think that you forget how great you are because they are there in such an abundance. And this is just such a fun read with a really satisfying conclusion as well. So yeah, read some Neil Gaiman. I saw Sarah Reeves was talking a bit about Neil Gaiman on her channel recently, and she gave a great chat about why you should read his works. And I think also talking about some of his short stories, so I do need to read Trigger Warning quite soon. And so, I think that is our books for this video. So we will have part 2 out in, I believe, 2 days if nothing goes wrong, if our lamb doesn't eat the Wi-Fi again.
Those darn lambs, Baharami.
And as long as there aren't any technical issues, so hopefully 2 days. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please do click the like button and subscribe if you want to. We have a Patreon in the channel if you want to support us, but of course no need to at all. Thank you for just watching this video, and I hope that you really enjoyed. And so for now, Ed and Will, the brothers Gwynne. Truth and courage.
Stay safe from the brothers Gwynne. Don't stay safe from us. No. Stay safe.
No, not at
but
all.
from us, like a postcard. But
like a thank you.
Stay safe.
The brothers Gwynne.